you
Okay.
gonna read Jill's book?
Am I going to read Jill's book? I will read Jill's book.
Yeah, we'll read Jill's book.
I read Ginger's book. I'll read Jill's book.
If your family member wrote a book about your family, would you read it? Duh.
Yeah.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Jen and this is Fundy Fridays, and here on my channel I talk about different aspects of Christian fundamentalism, American conservative politics, pop culture, and gay stuff. Before we begin, obviously I need to plug some merch. Yeah? Yeah, that doesn't increase my ego at all, having a picture of myself on my shirt. So yes, this is the Eyes of Reverend Jen, which is a reference to Tammy Faye Bakker, the Eyes of Tammy Faye. And my nickname is the Reverend. I am ordained through the Universal Life Church, which is not like real. Do not do sermons. I don't have a church. It's just a fun little cheeky nickname. And I know some people think that like I'm like actually ordained and like I went to school and like I do that stuff. No, I'm not. I don't lead religious services besides the one on my channel. And this shirt was designed by Max Holler. They also made the sticker that is Jesus Christ getting a plaque. Like I have a silver plaque and he had a wooden plaque because he's a carpenter and he has 12 followers. It's super cute. But yes, they made this shirt, which I'm obsessed with. I wonder if I should have worn yellow eyeshadow today to match the shirt, but I was like, we're doing our own thing today. So anyway, new merch has dropped. We not only have that by Max, but we also have the Fundy Fridays Tarot design and Vampire Hoe, which I'll probably wear Vampire Hoe in the next episode. And then we are working on another poster and it's almost ready. And you guys are going to just absolutely die of happiness. And hopefully you'll be reborn again as a Jedi. But if you are a patron or a member of the YouTube community, there is a 10% discount floating around when you join. And then I do plan on putting out a discount for everybody around the holidays. I'll probably do that in November. That will be more significant. That way, you know, if there's something you were saving up to get, or, you know, you got a Jennonite who needs a present or just something for yourself, we got you covered. But right now, that's what we have. Join the Patreon or the YouTube community. If you do those things, you get behind the scenes videos. We do patron only live streams. We tried to do one last Sunday and the technology failed us because we were living in distortion. We were under spiritual attack. We always do watch parties on Mondays on my Discord. And that usually goes up without a hitch because that doesn't require like a video camera. And lately we have been watching Sister Wives on Monday. And once that season's done, we'll probably watch something else. I know James really wants to watch Tuttle Twins with you guys, but I want to watch like some old school Duggar episodes or like some Bates. That is really fun. And we have a very active and lively Discord community. I've got a bunch of mods that I owe my life to. We have all kinds of different topics that we cover there. And yeah, it's just a really good vibe. You don't have to support me at all. But if you want to do it for free, you can like, share, subscribe. On my channel, we say consensually smash that like and subscribe button. It's a little joke, but I like to think that the like button does want to be smashed. That's the whole joke. What else? Yeah, I know we just covered a Duggar topic last week, but I have been writing this one for like 2 months now, and I just needed to get it out. So today we are talking about the Forsyths, which is, they're all interconnected. So Joy Duggar married a man named Austin Forsyth. She's now Joy Forsyth. The Forsyths are, they're not IBLP royalty. I don't even know if they'd be on the court, the royal court, but they are significant, and the parents, Austin's parents, Terry and Roxanne Forsyth, run Fort Rock, which is a Christian family camp. It can be also for couples. I forgot to read to you all what the Bible verse is that Fort Rock comes from. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield, and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. They do all sorts of like outdoor activities, and they obviously have a church component to it. And it was something I'd always wondered about because the Duggars had been there several times, and they've even filmed an episode of their show there. We weren't aware the parents were on well, not just the parents, the whole family, was on World's Strictest Parents, which was a reality show on CMT. That episode is kind of shocking, some of the stuff that they get away with. And we're going to talk about it, definitely. But before we jump into that, here is a word from our sponsor. Attention campers, we'd like to take a second and let you all know that today's episode is sponsored by Casetify. You can go to www.casetify.com/FundyFridays today to save 15% off your next order. Now everybody pay attention and gather around, for Counselor James has something to tell you.
Good afternoon, campers of Camp Casetify. I know we are all really sad that Camp Casetify is over and that our Summer of Fun is coming to a close. But even with move out day today, I still have one important thing to talk to all of you about. True survivalists know that you have to protect your phone just like it was another camper in our buddy system. You need to be ready to protect your phone from things like snakes and bears and impure thoughts. I want to make sure that all you good, true survivalists know that the only way to properly protect your phone from the elements is with a Casetify phone case. My favorite series of Casetify phone cases are their Impact and Ultra Impact series of cases. These cases are certified with 8.5 feet of drop protection to make sure that your phone is protected in any situation. So you don't have to worry about your phone while you're doing all of the character building and gender appropriate camp activities that we enjoy so much here at Camp Casetify. And just like a good camper's sash can tell you all about who they are and what they care about, so too can a Casetify phone case help you express your unique personality and style. Casetify has thousands of prints, patterns, and designs thanks to their diverse roster of partner artists. They offer cases for Android and iPhone, including the brand new iPhone 15. Take, for example, these two cases here. I like this case because it features a woodland pattern and I enjoy nature, and also leopards. And I like this case because it will help me attract a gothic girl to be my courting partner and future wife. So thanks to Casetify, I can get my merit badges for hiking, for personal expression, and for sponsored ad reads all before the end of the summer.
So once again, thanks to Casetify for sponsoring this video. And campers, you can go to www.casetify.com/FundyFridays today to save 50% off of your next order. Now, you guys are going to get back to the episode, and I'm going to go ride the zip line one more time. So thanks to Casetify, and thank you, Jen and I. See you later. I have been wanting to cover the World's Strictest Parents for several years now, and I just never had like a good time to do it because there's always either like a bigger essay that I want to do or like a current event that needs to be talked about, and so I really didn't have any other time except for right now. And then I forgot that Jill was dropping her book, so I had to take time to do that. We are talking about the Forsyths. As always, thank you to R. Duggar Snark and Funny Snark Uncensored and all the main subs that talk about these groups, because 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for information about fundamentalists, they've already archived it, tagged it, and discussed it before you even remember that it happened. So Terry and Roxanne, that's the parents. They have 2 children together, Megan and Austin. Megan has since married. She is now Megan Ballinger. She is married to a man named Bobby Ballinger, who is the son of Bob Ballinger, and he was an Arkansas politician. And I believe Joy and probably Jed, I think Jed was the one that ran for office. I'll correct it on the screen if I'm wrong. But he like interned for him, I guess, to like get political experience. But actually Jed said that he managed the campaign. I don't know if he did or not, or to what extent. But that's what he's claiming, and that's why he thought that you guys should vote for him, and clearly nobody did. I found something that I wanted to discuss, and then I had to do a little research, and by that I mean James did the research, and so I found something very interesting. In 2015, Bob Ballinger was a sponsor of Arkansas House Bill 1228, the Conscience Protection Act. This bill was modeled on a similar piece of legislation in Indiana, the 2015 Senate Bill 101, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. That bill was famously advanced and signed as a flagship piece of legislation for the then governor, Mike Pence, who was at the time gearing up for a potential presidential run and wanted to galvanize his evangelical clout. Notably, the bill's primary effect was to give business entities the ability to invoke religious freedom as a defense against discrimination and other legal claims brought by individual citizens. This is why the bill is often associated with the famous gay wedding cake cases, where cake shops would refuse to bake cakes for gay weddings and then get sued. Ballinger's House Bill 1228 was met with protest and formal admonishment from large companies like Walmart and Apple, who encouraged it to be vetoed due to the massive economic and social concerns involved. Remember, Walmart is a huge Arkansas company. Despite this, the bill was signed into law by Governor Asa Hutchinson on April Fool's Day of all days in 2015, and then it is called Arkansas Act 975. And by all accounts, this seems to still be in effect to this day. And I have a CNN clip here of Bob Ballinger defending this bill, and it is a little confusing because the thing at the bottom says it's Indiana governor speaks out, and it looks like that's who they're talking about, but it's Bob Ballinger. You'll see.
Laws exist for one purpose, which is to allow religious people not to serve commercial relationships with same-sex weddings. Isn't it true that this bill will allow religiously sincere people not to participate, not to serve as florists, as photographers for same-sex weddings? Isn't that what this law does?
No, this law doesn't, because as it is right now, there's no protected class, so an individual can discriminate against anybody for any reason as long as it's not one of those protected classes, either on federal law or state law. And so my bill actually has no effect on that at all. There is no discrimination. In fact, the only discrimination that this bill would affect is people who would discriminate against a person who holds certain beliefs. And so that's really where this bill is effective, and it actually has nothing to do with any other type of discrimination.
Well, but I mean, I've read the bill. The bill allows people to say that they are religiously opposed to same-sex marriages, so they will not, so they don't have to participate. They don't have to sell their services to them.
You'll have to give me the section where it says that. Now, if you're talking about the fact that we're on a strict scrutiny standard, you know, that we're going to a heightened scrutiny, just like 31 other states are on, just like the federal government already is on, well, true, that's there, but frankly, that's the same as it is in every one of those other states. In fact, we're a minority of the states right now that doesn't give that heightened protection for religion. So I really think that, and as it is right now, it won't change anything because there is no protected class given to the LGBT community. And frankly, if that's something that needs to be done, then we ought to be debating it and somebody ought to bring that bill. But frankly, from my standpoint, what I wanted to do was protect somebody's religion.
Also, I did find one more thing that was interesting. So I was on Bob Ballinger's LinkedIn page and looking at all of his experiences and work history. And it says here that he was the ministry director at Crossover Ministry, a chapter of Reformers Unanimous. And Reformers Unanimous was what we called, quote unquote, Prahab. And it was the place that Josh Duggar went to after the Ashley Madison leak happened. And so I don't know if he worked there specifically or if this truly is another chapter, but the fact that it's affiliated with Reformers Unanimous, which is already sketchy, is just kind of crazy. These people probably know each other, all of these people. It's wild to me.
The Forsyths themselves don't seem to be very politically active. And we all know that they're conservative. If they were liberal, that would be news. They don't tweet offensive shit like some of the other members of the Duggar family. So I guess I'll give them credit for that. Now, obviously, they do things that are problematic, like film their young children and do very unsafe things, which we will talk about later. But I just thought that was an interesting connection. Joy has been friends with Austin since they were young teenagers, and it's a little murky, the timeline of how they got together, but they did officially start courting in 2016, and that was announced in November, but they were probably dating before that.
Hey y'all, I'm Joy Duggar, and this is Austin.
I just asked her to enter a courtship with me.
And I said yes. We've known each other for a long time.
Almost 15 years.
Yeah.
I remember when they discussed on TLC their courtship because the show was still on at the time. Like, the moment they announced their courtship, they had Joy in the family photo at the Fort Rock photo. So I wanted to know if I could back my claim up that the Forsyths were, like, using the Duggars and the Joy courtship to, like, advertise their camp. And so I went to the Wayback Machine and I found the snapshot on November 11th, which was 5 days before the courtship was announced. And you can see it's this old-timey photo. Everybody's super young. And then on November 16th, it's the new photo with Joy in it. So, hey, I just thought that was interesting. And so it seems like maybe this is a political alliance and maybe they were trying to capitalize on something. I don't know. They must have known that, like, they were going to get married, because how embarrassing would that be if they put her on the website and they broke up? But they got married in May of 2017. Their wedding, of course, was on Counting On. And then at Joy's wedding, her brother Joe proposed to his girlfriend at the time, Kendra, and then they got married and they have like a billion kids. The family is kind of affiliated with IBLP. I don't know to what capacity. None of them like serve on any boards or anything on the IBLP website, but I did find Austin's like testimony, sort of. This is from 2010, and it's Austin Forsyth talking about his time at Journey to the Heart, which until Shiny Happy People, I thought Journey to the Heart was only for girls, but it's for everybody.
So my name is Austin Forsyth, and I just want to share with y'all a little bit what Journey to the Heart has done for me. I was pretty rebellious. I grew up in a really great Christian home, but I came to that point in my teenage years where I really had to make the choice if my parents' faith was going to be my faith, and unfortunately I started hanging around the wrong crowd, and they influenced me in a wrong manner. So back in 2010, my dad sent me to Journey to the Heart, and I didn't really want to go, but God used that to change my life. And while I was there, I was exposed to the Bible and to some really good teachers who invested into my life a lot. About the 5th or 6th day of being there, God just pressed upon my heart so much, convicted me that I needed to change, and I was saved, but I just needed to get back in fellowship with Him. And so I remember I went to my journey leader. He just spent so much time praying with me and going over God's Word with me. And I called my parents, and so I confessed my sin to them, and I got right with them and the Lord. And really the rest of my time there at Journey was just encouraging me, building me up in the Lord, and my journey leaders encouraging me that when I go back home, I should be real careful with the friends that I had. And so I tried to do that, and I went back to them and told them that I wanted to serve the Lord with my life, and I wanted to please Him, and if they didn't want to, then we weren't going to be able to be super close friends anymore. So Journey brought me to that crossroad of, am I going to serve the Lord? And I knew what was right and wrong, and am I going to serve the Lord, or am I going to be in the world and do what I know isn't right? I remember Him so clearly bringing me there, saying, Austin, are you gonna do what's right? Are you gonna serve me? Or are you gonna serve the Lord? Are you gonna serve me no matter if your friends are serving me, or you're in the right atmosphere and the right condition and the right fellowship? Or are you just gonna go in the world, or are you gonna serve me? And I made my decision, my choice there at Journey to the Heart to serve the Lord. It's really amazing to see how Journey to the Heart changed my life, and the people there invested into me. And then from that, I've been able to reach other people.
Austin is a contractor by trade, but what's significant with that is that according to the show, he had to fix and flip 3 houses in order to like earn Joy's hand in marriage. And I mean, that's entertaining for TV. I don't know how true that is. I don't think that's like the worst stipulation. It means he'd have to like be responsible and make some money, but they've like kind of lived all over. They lived in an RV for a little bit. So before we begin, I did watch Joy and Austin's vlog that they just put out 3 days ago. It's Tuesday right now as I'm recording this, so 3 days ago. And They said a few surprising things, such as they are not affiliated with IBLP, and they said that they had talked about not doing IBLP while they were courting.
Another question, are we still a part of IBLP?
No, we never were. You and I as a couple.
Like once we got together.
Once we got married, we started distancing ourselves from those functions, and we'd always talked about when we were dating that we weren't gonna use their literature and stuff like that, so just kind of distance ourselves.
Voila, have our own relationship with the Lord.
They are Baptist as a denomination. I don't know to what extent. I don't know if it's IFB. I don't know if it's, if it's something else. They said they're Baptist now, and they follow the Bible and Jesus and no man, which we know they're talking about Bill Gothard.
What type of Christianity do we follow? Well, we follow the Bible. Yep. We are Bible-believing Christians.
We follow Jesus alone.
Jesus. We don't follow a man. We go to a Baptist church. That's the doctrine that is closest to ours. Yeah.
Okay.
That was like the burning questions that people had about them, but more about Austin and Joy as a couple after we talk about the parents. So, without further ado, let's talk about Fort Rock, sorry. I really would like to call it Camp Rock, though. Camp Rock! Camp Rock! Terry and Joe Forsyth are the parents. Terry is the father, and he was actually previously married to somebody else and had 2 kids, which I don't have a problem with. I think that's morally neutral, but I just thought I'd bring it up because they're fundamentalists, and they usually hate divorce and like to shame people who have one. So, whatever. They got married, Roxanne and Terry did, in 85, I believe, and they started Fort Rock in 1995. It's like a campground. I mean, literally, they have cabins, which, by the way, you have to bring your own sheets and pillows and blankets to this cabin. And it costs a pretty penny. If you stay for just one night, it's $75. And the cabins have like a big, probably standard size bed. I can't imagine it's any bigger than that. And then there's like 2 sets of bunk beds, and it's all in the same room. And can we please talk about how they do not care if you have dietary restrictions? Right here on the FAQ, it says, just bring your own food, because we're not making you anything special. For the 4-day family camp, it is $350. 3 days is $225. There are additional costs of $110 per adult, which is anybody 13 years or older. $75 per child, which is 5 and 12. Infant and toddlers are free. That's nice. Prices include all activities and meals and 1 cabin. So as long as you only have to have 1 cabin for your huge family, that will work out. But like, what would that be? Like, I sat there for a minute and like trying to figure out what the math would be on that. Like, say you had a Fundy family of 10, which had 2 adults, a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old, which would all be counted as adults. So that's 110 times 5. Does the 110, does that count the parents? And let's say you had a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So 75 times 3. And then let's throw on 2 toddlers, because this is a fundamentalist family that I'm making up. So they're free. Okay, that's $1,125. I really hope I'm wrong. I also think that I probably just did more math than the Duggars ever learned with their ATI booklets.
Fort Rock Family Camp was started many years ago from a heart's desire that I had to help fathers get closer and reconnect with their families. I was in the workplace for a long time and actually dedicated a lot of my life to working all the time. And whenever I gave my life to the Lord and changed things around in my life, we actually, Lord just turned my heart toward my family in a way where I wanted to share that with others. And so Fort Rock was born. And I get a chance to minister to the dads and just share my heart with them about what's important about family and and priorities and things like that. And my goal is to help them to see that if we do things the right way, if we do things God's way, it just seems to work out every time. And it just gives them some tools and ammunition to be able to raise their family.
They boast at this camp a lot of different activities: axe throwing, horseback riding, shooting guns with children. They have like water fights, and they also have a brand new underground mine tunnel slide that they were talking about. And I'm not gonna lie, that actually looks very fun. I wonder if Terry got the idea for the knife throwing from Michael Pearl. Because, like, we know that they love to host the Pearls at Fort Rock. And I can only imagine that all of the children there are safe and comfortable and not at all scared of getting beaten within an inch of their life. Oh, was that too much? Well, Michael Pearl is too much, and he should not be allowed within a 100-foot radius of any child. Or adult. Or anyone. He really should just be, you know, imprisoned at his swamp, like the ogre he is. I take that back. I'm sorry. I love ogres, actually. And Shrek, he loves his family, and he would never hit his children. And then they have whatever the fuck this is. You got Terry doing some cockamamie skit, and, like, he does that a lot. It's on the website, and it's on the 19 Kids and Counting episode where they go.
The first night there was all kinds of skits and games and a campfire and s'mores and singing, and we just had a great time.
They say there's no cell service, there's no creature comforts. It's just about getting dirty with your family.
Why do you think it's important for fathers to spend time with their daughters?
There's bugs crawling on the ceiling.
And then, of course, we know as soon as Joy started courting Austin, they started throwing her into the promotional materials. And so here is her and Austin talking about the camp and how much they love it.
You get to see dads interact with their families like they probably don't do on a normal week-to-week basis. And after spending a week with their kids, they actually like their kids after spending time with them.
Moms get a break from just the daily routine of keeping up with things at the house, and the kids can roam and play. There's so many activities for the kids to do, and the moms can just relax so they can focus more on relationships instead of chores.
I really like in this ad how Joy says that the moms get a break, and I'm not sure if she's implying that there is childcare provided at Fort Rock, or if she's like implying like parentification, or even worse, probably just letting the kids run wild at the campgrounds with no supervision. I guess it's time we talk about World's Strictest Parents, because they show you right on screen how much they love putting them kids to work.
It's a lot of work running Fort Rock, but we're a team.
The biblical principle of not having idle mind and idle time is really important.
This next clip is the mom and daughter talking about purity and modesty, and it's just kind of blown my mind because this was just on national television and this was completely normal.
Modesty is very important to us. We want people to look at our countenance rather than our bodies. Both my children have taken a vow. They want to stay pure before they get married.
And like the title suggests, this show is about really strict parents. Well, it's not quite about that. It's like wife swap, but with the kids instead of the parents. And so they'll take kids or teens that they perceive to be like bad, which they're just doing like developmentally appropriate things, and they're pushing back against their parents who are, let's say, I don't want to say that they're automatically bad parents, but the fact that they're like putting their child on a reality show to go live with other strict adults to like shame them. It's humiliating, it's embarrassing, and you're making your child out to be a monster when in reality it's probably your own fault that they're acting like that. In this episode we have Tyler, who we'll talk about in just a second, and Ariella. Oh my god, I am so sorry. So I called her Ariella a bunch of times in the episode. Her name is Ariel. It's spelled A-R-I-E-L, and yeah, please. Fuck, I feel so stupid, but that's, yeah. Her name is Ariel. I love her. I think she's a fun little teenage girl. Something that is notable about Ariella is that she is Jewish. And they force her to go to a IFB church in this episode. So we'll get to that in a second. But Tyler, his whole thing is that he's lazy. And to me, it just seems like he's just depressed. And he could use like a little love from his mother and stop having people talking to him like he's stupid. Ariel like stays out late with her friends and like yells at her parents. And then Tyler, like, he skips school. Like, I feel like both of those things could be fixed in-house and they don't require you to, you know, exploit your child on a reality TV show. After meeting the teens, we meet Terry and Roxanne, and of course, Austin and Megan. But they're kind of side characters in this circus. In this clip, you see everything. You see their patriarchal beliefs. You see their emphasis on modesty and purity.
You do not have to try cocaine to know that it's bad.
I'm going to save my heart for my husband. And also to save my first kiss for my husband as well.
You see their really strong feelings about obedience.
The Bible says that you can't serve two masters. Jesus is first, and then dad's next, and then mom, and then the children after that.
Oh, yeah, they just come right out and say it. I'm the helpmate, he's the headship.
And that a woman's place is in the home.
Supper's ready! Terry is the head. I am the helpmeet.
I wonder if there's anything like that on TV at the time. The God Warrior episode of Wife Swap had already come out. And, you know, we had Westboro Baptist Church, and the Duggars, of course, were on TV at this time. But I don't really remember anything like this overtly religious, this overtly IBLP. So when they arrive, we see like the Forsyth family explaining all the rules, including no closed doors, no cell phones, and, you know, good old-fashioned slut shaming of a 13-year-old girl.
Another biggie in our home is immodest clothing. We call it defrauding whenever, you know, it causes a man to, you know, look the wrong way on a woman and things. Clear on that?
Yep. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Ariella was wearing a long skirt with black tights and a cardigan. So what part of her outfit was causing you to stumble, Terry?
My girls wear skirts and modest clothing, and I won't compromise for someone that stays in our home. It would be breaking a vow, as far as Austin's concerned, to expose him to something like that, and I can't do that.
Maybe you should think about what's wrong with you for, you know, staring at a child's body. Maybe we could address that first.
You know, we were talking about the immodest dress, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think it was that bad until when I sat on the couch over there. The outfit you have on now is kind of short. Okay, so slip back there and take care of that.
And listen, man, I don't think that like teenagers shouldn't have any chores or responsibilities, but to make somebody else's child do labor for you in the hot sun is just plain wrong.
Like, it was just hard to breathe, and it was just like, it just got hot really fast. Oh my God.
And then later in the episode, they make them work in the rain. Like, are we not concerned about trench foot?
When we start a project, we hate to stop. Even with inclement weather, we don't like to stop.
I just wanted to be home, get in my bed and go to sleep.
Since we're already wet, we might as well go and do it, right? Yeah.
Terry spends the whole time with Tyler because, you know, he's their man. And he's like teaching him, you know, you got to stay in school and you got to go to college, and you know, which is, you know, good stuff. And then there's this next set of clips where we have Roxanne talking to Ariel about the importance of family and serving others, which I just found interesting that, you know, there's that emphasis on housework.
It's really neat that when the people come up here, it's how some lives are changed. Family's really important.
It is.
It's a foundation, you know. Do you want to just waste your life on yourself? And
then there's sweet little Megan, who's trying to do her best, and she's like, you know, Ariel finally learned to smile while she does manual labor.
How's it going?
It's going good.
I think me being a part of some of the projects with Ariel just helped make her feel like she can have a cheerful attitude and do stuff.
I've got it splattered all over me. I know, me too.
And now in this next clip, Terry justifies their choice of forcing the kids to go to church. Now, I don't know which church or what denomination or any of that stuff, but we know that this family is IBLP, so I'll let you fill in the blanks.
The problem is that that's what we do. If I was asking you to do something that, was immoral or against the law or something, then I could see where you'd say, I can't do that. If right off the bat you say, well, I want to be a part of your family, but not go to church, then you're not a part of my family.
But it's also like, church is not always good. A lot of people have been hurt at churches. And, also the fact that Ariella is fucking Jewish.
I've never went to church in my life. I'm Jewish.
I love her so much. And I really hope she's doing well. And Tyler, too.
I think, it's not that true that people will eventually get a divorce because they've been dating, because people date in order to find the right person.
One of the vows I made is to stay pure before marriage, to not give my heart away to another guy.
I would definitely not appreciate somebody else giving my child the sex talk. Then the parents send letters to the kids talking about how much they miss them and how they want them to change their behavior. And then they come and pick them up from Camp Rock, and all is solved and everything is good to go, according to CMT. World's Strictest Parents was not the only time that Fort Rock was on television. So it was also featured on 19 Kids and Counting in the episode Duggars and Daughters. No, I didn't like typing it in, and I didn't like saying it now.
Oh yeah, my dad's excited. He loves this type of stuff. He likes taking all of us to on campouts and everything more than probably we want to.
No, it's fun.
We like it. Some things he's like, oh, we're gonna tough it. We're just gonna lay out in our sleeping bags on the ground. But thankfully we have a cabin.
Yeah.
Daddy, why did the girls get to go first on the father?
Well, you should always let girls go first. That's what I think too.
But boys' turn is in a long time.
This episode features Terry heavily because, why would they ever feature the wife?
We built the camp for with intentions of family restoration. Just feel like in America today, dads need a little help, and we've got a place here, a beautiful place that dads and families can come and just enjoy their families and spend time alone with their families and their creator.
And it also it has Jim Bob taking all of his daughters up to Joy to Fort Rock, and they did a family camp. Presumably it was written off by TLC, and they do all kinds of stuff. They ride horses, shoot guns. And an episode of 19 Kids and Counting would not be complete without a lecture about the importance of God-honoring gender roles.
My daughters are better at packing and getting everything ready for a trip when we're going on a long trip somewhere, but I had to think of all the things that we would need for a camp out. And so I tried to bring the fun things like the RTV and hook up the trailer and that type of stuff. They thought of the clothes and the food and the snacks and all that.
That was the parents. I obviously think they're fucked up for, having their children do so much labor. They hosted the Pearls, and I mean they're IBLP, so like I said earlier, if they were gentle parents and that was their whole philosophy, we would have heard about it by now. That's what they do to their kids. Now, as for Austin and Joy, first off, I do think they're both trying their best. They were both raised in abusive situations, exploitative situations, shit. But Austin did attend Josh's trial so that he could report back to Joy and she wouldn't have to sit through that stuff again. And I think that takes guts, and I think he is a good husband. I think he does love her. I mean, Joy has been through a lot of trauma as a child and as an adult, so I want to give her the benefit of the doubt a little bit, her and Austin. They've improved in some areas, they've broken some cycles, but I also think that there could be some improvement, right? We've already talked a little bit about Joy oversharing with her kids, but I know why she does it. It's just very obvious to me that she's trying to continue the family business. All she's ever known. You have kids, you film them, you make money from it. And I'm sure she believes that nothing bad will ever happen to her kids and that, all of the footage will just be used innocuously. It just makes sense. This is the only marketable skill that she's ever been taught. It's the family business. And I don't think she thinks she's doing anything wrong, of course, but it just makes sense. And especially when you think about that's also one of the only like approved jobs for a lot of fundamentalist women is vlogging. And hey, if it brings in extra money, then everything's great. But you have to remember, you know, the children that don't even understand the concept of vlogging. They don't understand why strangers know who they are. As of late, Joy and Austin have come under fire for their lack of safety protocols with various things. We have Austin taking the baby on a zip line, and I know we like to joke about how zip lines are lame, but like that actually is very incredibly dangerous to have a toddler that up that high without any sort of restraints or helmets. And then we have Joy riding the four-wheeler, pregnant, playing with her phone, and she's got her and her small daughter, and nobody's wearing a helmet or any sort of safety equipment. It actually is very serious. You should never ride a ATV type vehicle or any little motorized vehicle without a helmet, without, you know, getting properly strapped in, without proper shoes, and you really should not have young children on these things. Growing up, I lived in the country. I can't tell you how many times we heard about our neighbors having children that would be gravely injured on some of these things. They can flip over very easily, and then they're so heavy you can barely pick them up. Children and adults have died riding these things and not using the proper safety precautions. Shit, even if you do the proper safety precautions, if you get like launched off of something, if you get crushed, like there's only so much they can do. These are very serious injuries, and this is a very unsafe situation. So I'm poking fun at Joy, but like this is kind of a wake-up call. You have to be careful. You have to be safe. And then of course we have the gun that was left on the table at a perfect height for a child to come up and mess with. Now, I don't know if they were loaded or not, or what the situation is, but I would just err on the side of caution to not have any unsupervised loose guns lying around your house when you have several very small children. Thank God nothing bad has happened, and hopefully nothing ever will. If you love these kids, you need to do better. You need to be more safe. I can't believe I have several examples of this. So that's the Joy stuff. We need to really talk about Medicorps. So it is a stupid name, by the way, because it stands for Medical Evacuation Disaster Intervention Corps. And I make this joke every time I talk about Medicorps, but that is the same thing as chai tea or an ATM machine. Now, I can't say for sure that they've never helped a single person, but to me and to a lot of other people, we do view it as like virtue signaling, or like they want the attention for helping and they aren't necessarily doing good. Now, I will say several of them have like training in these things. Austin is a real legitimate EMT, and they've gone down there with Abby Duggar, who's married to John David, and she's a registered nurse. So like, that's good. You may have heard about Medicorps from several episodes, but also because they famously went down to the Bahamas to help with the disaster relief due to Hurricane Dorian. And this was infamous because the whole little Duggar and Bate combo group, as you can see, there's Lawson Bates, who is notably a huge fan of the channel. And they had Chick-fil-A flown in for themselves to eat because they were just working so hard. Now, Austin and Joy are not in that picture, but they are, Austin's in the group shot, and then you can see here, I don't know if they are. And even more so, John David stole jet fuel from the Navy. And he was waving his fucking gun and his fake little badge around, too. Do you really think that's good to be associated with this kind of group?
They were using stuff that was meant for other NGOs, which is non-government organizations, charities, working groups. They were using stuff that was out in the airstrip area up to and including fuel, which according to this guy on Facebook, the Duggar guy, or the Medicorps people, tried unsuccessfully to refuel a Navy jet with the wrong kind of fuel.
So they just walked up on the landing strip, saw a bunch of vehicles, and
they were just like started taking them, working with it, saying we need these for our stuff.
And so they probably
used
used
this stuff and this stuff. And
so they used their like Medicorps clout to be like, we're an organization that's going to come help. We're legit.
Yeah.
And so they said, give us these vehicles.
Give us
I'm
the
sure
vehicles
some people
and we're
did.
and they also had the guns and badges, so they were threatening people with their little constable badges. Well, yeah, that's what they were doing. They basically tried to pretend they owned that airstrip and take over the whole thing the second they got there, up to and including from the U.S. Navy, for at least one report from on the ground.
So, because there was probably so much stuff going on is why nobody caught on to that. Because I can't imagine that, like, somebody from the fucking U.S. Army or the U.S. Navy wouldn't, like, put a boot in their ass.
I mean, I'm sure they were quietly redirected to other tasks, and they were there for right around a week. So, yeah, people probably just didn't notice, and, I mean, it's the chaos of a hurricane.
So, not sure quite about, like, Austin's specific involvement in that, and if anything, he was one of the good ones, hopefully. I do want to talk about Joy Austin. I want to talk about their friendship with the cast of the Freedomists podcast. So the Freedomists podcast, they are libertarian. Who would have ever guessed? So I originally had a section in this video where I was going to like in-depth cover the video that Joy and Austin did with the Freedomists, but truth be told, it's actually painfully boring, and Joy and Austin's like personalities kind of get swallowed up by the other two hosts. And so it's like not really worth watching. The best part was when Joy told a cute story about playing in the rain with her kids. Other than that, I wanted to show you something that I found to be much more interesting, which is Lemuel Reber. He did a video on the channel where he was trying to explain Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. And I picked a spot of the video where you can tell what he's trying to do. He's trying to be like painting a picture of he's just making a really exaggerated straw man argument, and I don't really want to spend time like debunking what he's saying, but if you're watching this channel, you probably have similar political views as me, so yeah, enjoy.
All Americans, the literal interpretation of the phrase Black Lives Matter is indisputable, but due to the clever branding of the organization itself, the strange paradox is that if you respond with anything other than wholehearted and enthusiastic support, then you immediately appear to not care about Black lives or somehow believe that they don't matter. Or if you try to bring attention to the fact that the lives of all colors and ethnicities, not just blacks, are lost to police shootings, or that all lives matter, you must be demeaning or opposing to the Black Lives Matter movement itself. And this is the problem with reducing politics down to sound bites and headlines and polarizing people around oversimplified phrases.
Perhaps what's most interesting about the Freedomists isn't their interview with Joy and Austin. It's that eventually they went on to work for PragerU, and not just in the normal capacity of the little, videos in front of the green screen bitching about liberals.
And really busy working and making videos for an organization.
Work!
For an organization by the name of
PragerU.
Yes,
PragerU.
What they do is they make history skits for middle and high school students under the PragerU Kids umbrella. Oh boy, it's really bad.
I think we can all agree that history is pretty important, but there's a problem.
Modern teaching of history is not honest history. It's just leftist ideology being crammed down the throat of your kids. But traditional teaching of history is kind of, I don't know, dare I say boring? Maybe?
Super boring. John Adams, I hate that guy. He smells like a fish.
Now Benjamin Franklin's head will be in your head all day. You're welcome. But to be honest, if history were actually taught like this, maybe young people would actually remember it. And maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't have to repeat it.
And this is going to get crazy, so try to pay attention. So, the guy on the right here, he's a Reber. Specifically, his name is Lemuel. He married a woman named Hannah Bunch. And so now her married name is Hannah Reber. His wife also works for the Lieutenant Governor of Arkansas, Tim Griffin. Just a little fun fact. The Rebers were actually the family that housed Josh while he was out on bail. So he lived with them while he was awaiting trial, and now he lives in prison. They had a daughter there that was living there at the time, and I remember that the mom was very uncomfortable with that and voiced it to the judge. But anyway, her name is also Hannah Reber. And I only know this because when doing research, I kept getting the two Hannahs confused. But luckily, Hannah Reber got married and has a new last name, Keller. So if you're paying attention, the daughter, Hannah, married into Josh's in-laws family. She married David Keller, who is Anna Duggar's brother, because Anna used to be a Keller. There's even more connection. If you go farther, there's the Schraders, and then there's also the Wallers. And if you want to connect this Fundy universe even more, we all know that the Kellers are also now in-laws to the Rodriguezes, because Nuri Rodriguez married Nathan Keller. So, no, probably nothing weird, technically, that she married into a Duggar in-law family and blah, 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 all that stuff. I just thought that was fucking crazy, the connection. So, in conclusion, I think that in some regards, both Austin and Joy were brought up and educated for a world that no longer exists. Fundamentalism and the Quiverful lifestyle in particular rely on assumptions like men being able to make a living in an independent trades enough to support a large family with no additional income, since their wives are expected to live as full-time homemakers. But on a more basic level, both of these two are trying their best in this fucked up world. They have both endured trauma, religious indoctrination, child abuse, unpaid labor, and TV exploitation. I just wish Joy would break the cycle and stop filming her kids, but that's low on the list of things that's likely to happen. And while they are both trying their best, as we all are in this fucked up world, I just really think that maybe a little bit more effort could be put in for the safety of their children, for the privacy of their children. We may like these two as individuals, but you have to remember that they are a part of, and they do propagate and participate in systems like fundamentalism, which are abusive inherently, and the fact that they're Trumpers and conservatives really just kind of, you fill in the blanks of the things that they're going to be voting for, the things that they're going to be endorsing, the things that they're going to be teaching their kids. Hopefully they change. Who knows? Crazier things have fucking happened. I never thought in a million years that Jill would be the one to do what she's doing. Yeah, don't harass anybody. Don't go bother the Duggars. Yeah, if you'd like more information, watch my videos, watch Shiny Happy People, read Jill's book. Let me know in the comments how you feel. If you like this episode, remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button. We got lots of good stuff coming up here in October. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you probably know one of the things that I'm going to do in October. We got lots of merch. I got lots of social media. That's free. I've been making more TikToks, and they're pretty good, if I don't say so myself. I post on Instagram all the time, and we try to foster a lovely community with our patrons and our channel members. Drink water, wear sunscreen. Next week is a James episode, and I will see you later. So, bye-bye!